Welcome to another episode of Dxtalks or Cryptotalks. Unfortunately, trying to solve my visual issue. Meanwhile, let's welcome Tay and then check how is Tay and how is everything.
Hello Rudy, تحياتي لك تحياتي for everyone. Hope everyone is doing well. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are watching from. This is week 36 and episode 191 at Dxtalks and Cryptotalks. So I give it back to you, Rudy, until I prepare some backslides to share some very interesting developments for this week.
Sure. Thank you, Tay. Yes, I think it is a very interesting week. A lot of news that we will cover in few. It's things are changing, and that's one of the things we'd like to always highlight, and how the markets are really changing with it. So, with that, let me share as usual, our crypto fraud alert. So, be careful, always make sure that you are uh, trying to practice the best exercises that you can for not falling a victim in this very fast paced world of technology. So, make sure that the fraud part is managed by you, since it's really hard, and how things are going, and the way it is becoming. It's really amazing field, because cybersecurity is really on the forefront of this. So make sure that you are always trying to watch out your uh, investments, your passwords, your money, your wallet, your how you do it, who you talk to, and everything related to that. So from that, we'll move to what's happening in our region, and then the events that we are actually involved in. So we are happy to announce media partnership with Altrasha, Construction Technology Week, and Web3 Summit blockchain that is happening in Riyadh. There's a lot of events now we see also in happening in Riyadh. We know what's happening in the month of October. We have JITEX, but we have around 18 other events in parallel to JITEX. And September is also full, going from Future Cities in Kuwait to ICBM happening in Dubai Festival Arena, and Future Cities again happening in Saudi Arabia. So the cybersecurity event happening, the seventh one is happening on 26th of September. So make sure to, if you are into cybersecurity, to be available there. Future Bank Summit and Digital Transformation and Banking also. I will be available, part of our partnership with Crypto Expo and World Trade Summit in Dubai on between 18th and 21st of September. I'll be in Dubai, and then I'll be having a couple of keynotes and panels. So make sure to join us, and then I'll announce that more next week. So meanwhile, with that, let me say hi to Tay again and check on the news. Tay, how was your week?
This week was a relatively volatile week, I would say. The last news we had were the SEC and the case or the case with Grayscale in order to start the spot ETF. Since then, we've seen a spike in the prices. It didn't hold up to more than 3 days, and now we are looking at the current market cap of 1 trillion and exactly 1.075 trillion dollars. So we're still above the 1 trillion. That's the good news. The bad news, the downtrend is continuing to happen. Very low liquidity. Low liquidity brings high volatility. This doesn't mean it's going to zero. It just means that we should be prepared for more volatility down the road because lack of liquidity, inflation, uh, the whole macroeconomic reading combined with the fact everyone is hyped for a Bitcoin halving. There is a lot of money on the sidelines, as they say. But 25,000 is still not a bad level for Bitcoin to be at, considering 10 years ago we were just perhaps $250 per Bitcoin. Bitcoin halving again, April 2024. We're gonna see a shrink in the supply that will go into the market by 50%. This is embedded by the code. No one can change. No one can alter. It is gonna happen on a specific date in April 2024. After this, the new blockchain of Bitcoin, the Bitcoin protocol, will give us 3.125 Bitcoins every, on average of every 10 minutes. From there on, another 4 years, we will see the last blocks where each block will give one Bitcoin with an average of 10 minutes. Why this is significant? Because 8 years from now, the liquidity in the market will dry up more, the supply in the market will dry up more and more, which will bring more volatility as well. Um, Now we are able to perform or perhaps to find 50 bitcoins to buy in one batch or to buy at one time. But in a few years from now, it will be very difficult to source these amounts, and hence the work of OTC traders will be more and more difficult. Speaking of difficulty as well, there is some interesting discussions going on how today Ethereum is becoming more and more a centralized network, especially with its staking pools being controlled by one large entity. And the other drawback on majority of those nodes are running on Amazon Web Services or AWS cloud. So this brings a weak spot of attack for Ethereum. We will perhaps cover more of that as the discussions, um, take more of a scientific shape, more than the ranting that we see now. So speaking of the scientific shape, I will share later a article with you where there is a nice post that was written last year actually, but it surfaced and emerged now. It's called the risks of liquid staking derivatives, and how today the DeFi market and the liquidity pools and the competition between Uniswap, a decentralized exchange that is mostly run by a community, is competing with volumes, is competing in volumes with a huge institution like Coinbase. Again, perhaps some thoughts for future discussions. We can kickstart this week 36, episode 191. Bitcoin prices now, as we speak, is at 25,617. One of the coins that I want to take a quick look at, because we're gonna start our news with them, is MakerDAO. So what has happened with MakerDAO in the past few days is not a isolated incident. This is the repercussion of a long story with MakerDAO. It is gaining momentum and gaining and putting a foothold in this market as one of the major DAOs today, and perhaps it is one of the as close as it can be to decentralized autonomous organization in the crypto market. MakerDAO is one of the oldest. They have been through huge battles to stick around as an organization, and its co-founder has proposed lately to launch a new blockchain with a new native blockchain that is based on Solana. This idea or this thought that was written in form of a post, and where the co-founder of MakerDAO was saying that the final and the fifth and the final phase of the current state of MakerDAO, which is in the state, they call it in the phase of endgame. Endgame is to launch a new chain. So at the phase of endgame, they want to launch new chain, and this new chain should have a native blockchain built on Solana with a bridge that interacts with Ethereum. Now, this has obviously somehow triggered a response from Vitalik, the founder of Ethereum, and his response was to sell his 500 MKRs or 500 MakerDAO tokens that he holds for 353.4 Ethereums, approximately $600,000. This further as well led to a cascade of people taking taking those footsteps, and today we're seeing MakerDAO in a downtrend in the past, let me see, 7 days, if I'm not mistaken. It has lost quite some substantial value, approximately around 10%. With this, this is how we starting our news for this week, and we're gonna see as well why Solana is important or took an important spotlight in this crypto week. Solana, by the way, as of now, their hackathon is open. As well, I will share the link for that, where if people are interested to join the Solana hackathon, which opened just right this moment. From Solana, let's move on to the next piece of news. Just a second.
I think this week's news is exciting, especially for the crypto casino stake, which is now, I think, Emirates are moving in.
Yeah, absolutely, and Rudy, it's not. I mean, the current developments that we're seeing, they're coming really fast, but at the same time, the level of threats is increasing at the same time, and this is why in our news for this week we're covering the news from the crypto casino that was targeted in a $40 million exploit. Their private keys were basically their private keys were basically exposed, and the coins were gone. Now, compared to last year we had $3.7 billion worth of crypto that was lost to hacks and exploits. Although this figure has dropped 70% compared to the first quarter of this year, this is obvious. different market caps, different times of the market. The sentiment was different. Yet it's still, the targeting is still happening, and $40 million today is a large amount compared to a platform that relies on its liquidity and relies on its customers to trust that they're putting their money in a safe position. Why is it important to put it in a safe position, and what does define safety? Regulation and legality is one of the safety measures, and this is how China is today declaring that virtual assets, they are legal properties. This will give a confidence to the Chinese consumer, and it will give him confidence that his money is somehow safe, because if the law is looking at this thing that I'm holding in my hand as a legal property, although it's a virtual asset, then it has a value, and I would perhaps be more careful in using it. So I like the Chinese way of dealing with crimes of virtual assets, and this is how they're dealing with it, by considering it a property. Then they can confiscate it in case the government wants to confiscate assets, property included. And if there is a case of theft, then the property law will apply, and the personal property rights and the social and the public interest rights will be guaranteed with this law. Still, there is a ban on all crypto-related activities, especially the ones from foreign exchanges, to offer their services in mainland China. Yet, this is a step in the right direction to have more and more favorable laws, so that perhaps in the future they can open up, to crypto as they were before. In our next news, we head to Visa, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not looking at my screen. Before Visa, Gala Games. This was one of the most interesting, I don't want to say tragedy or a comedy. It's somehow in between. Gala Games is known in the crypto industry, and it has a good following. It has a good reach as well into Asian and Middle Eastern communities. Their two founders today, they are at a legal battle. The price of the token dumped to 15%, and both allegations are on basically theft and fraud. So we're seeing in this week an external threat on a project or an organization being in a coordinated attack to claim private keys and collect cryptocurrency funds. It is easy to do compared to hijacking a bank, for example. And we saw some internal threats to projects and to cryptocurrencies, where, as simple as it can be, that the co-founders of the project are no longer in harmony, and they decide, or they end up destroying the value that was created with other people's money along the road. It doesn't mean that if there is a disagreement, the project will fail. No, what I'm saying is, in case there is a disagreement, if the outcome was destroying the value, then yes, the value of the cryptocurrency project goes down. And that's what has happened in the case of Gala Games. Our final piece of news for this week, and the star of our week, I would say, Solana. Solana this week had a major announcement where Visa is gonna use the payment rails of Solana network to offer stable crypto payments. This is big because Visa is one of the most financial networks with a huge access to merchants and to consumers. It's widely adopted. And today, using stable coins is bringing a much faster service to its clients, much cheaper service for its organization, and hence winning shareholder value by increasing profits and winning consumer value by offering a better service. It's a win-win situation for both organizations. Visa played it well with the stablecoin adoption. It seems that Solana is riding the correct wave of next crypto adoption, especially when those spot ETFs will be open. There will be a consumer and a business rush into cryptocurrencies, and we need those payment infrastructures. So this is why I think Solana is going to, you know, will it compete, as Ali was just saying, will it compete with Ethereum? Yes or no? Rudy, this was our news for this week, and I leave it back to you.
So yeah, indeed, will it compete? I think this is one of the main questions. I liked Ali question. Let me just highlight it so others can see it. Um, and it's really fundamental question in terms of what is happening in the world, because today will it compete also with Ethereum? That's Will it be that bridge? Those are really key fundamental questions, Ali. Thank you for your question. Uh, will we Could we answer this? I'm not too sure, but we see all of the power that is being pushed on Solana, and then similarly to MakerDAO moving to some of the things to Solana and others, and adoption, the speed of Solana, Visa now adding services to Solana. So we don't know in reality what's going to happen and how it's going to move. So yes, it's a crucial question, crucial information for us to see in the near future what's going to happen. So I think it's very important. Lama says, so MakerDAO is losing trust.
I wouldn't say MakerDAO is losing trust. I would say MakerDAO today did not decide 100% on going on on Solana. I cannot speak on their behalf as well. I don't know what are their plans, but this space is all about collaborations and building bridges. No one is better than the other. If Solana fits the purpose of this new stablecoin that MakerDAO wants to release, or the new coin that they want to release, the new governance coin, so be it. I think Ethereum today should grow outside of Vitalik and outside of the heavy load that they have as well in their transaction fees. Yes, there are other alternatives. It is not L2s and L3s. It's not as user friendly as we want this 1 billion user to come in. We should offer some user friendly services. I'm not a fan of as well Solana 100% or Ethereum 100%. Every chain fits its own purpose.
Yeah, what we're seeing at least now, diversions of main chains, let's say. We know that not all of the chains will remain, but we know not all of them will also be managing everything. So
Yeah.
let's wait and see. There's another question: is if there's a liquidity today after halving, what is gonna happen?
The liquidity after halving, this is when I believe the ETF timing would come. If we have a Bitcoin spot ETF by next year or 2025, 2026, which will happen. It will happen sooner or later. The gold market didn't have an ETF. The gold market didn't have derivatives. The gold market didn't have even a spot on the Nasdaq and on the New York Stock Exchange. So things changed as time passed. Things changed with crypto as well, and a spot Bitcoin ETF is not a matter of if it's gonna happen, it's a matter of when it's gonna happen.
When
What people need to understand is what does a Bitcoin spot ETF means as a financial institution when I'm offering, let's say, the pension club of the Canadian teachers a exposure or a possibility or the opportunity to invest a little bit of their pension money in a Bitcoin fund. This means me as a financial institution, I should be holding this Bitcoin. So if my spot Bitcoin ETF is worth 100 Bitcoins, this means my institutional account should have 100 Bitcoins, and those 100 Bitcoins are separated under a separate account than the account I use for my day-to-day expenses to run my business. In simple terms, this is what was against the fact in FTX when some pension funds they invested directly into FTX, and today we saw what happened with FTX. Spot ETF means a huge amount of dollars will enter the market, but it means as well a total different regulatory atmosphere for crypto. It means a total different risk atmosphere for crypto, and the liquidity that in fact we can use for spot ETF applications is smaller than what people think. So perhaps you might say we cannot use Bitcoin coming from a dark web to use it or to hold it in a spot ETF. We cannot use Bitcoin coming from Russia. We cannot do this. We cannot. So there are a lot of checklists that this type of Bitcoin should pass when it's going through a spot ETF application.
Indeed, indeed. And talking about ETFs and futures, well, last week also Binance, I was part of the event happening in the Arab region, and they released their own Arabic version of ETF. And this is something for the first time they do it in Arabic. You know, somebody is focusing on the Arab region as a whole. So I think now the ETF, as you mentioned, is going to be a big game changer. So let's wait and see. Thank you, Elias. Thank you, Ali, for your questions. Thank you, Lama. Thank you, Tay. I think it's full of real new information of how the markets are going. Make sure you invest safely. Make sure you know where you are investing, and this is our role. I think trying to facilitate this, trying to educate the region of what's happening. Tay, if you have any last words. Thank you, Tay, and see you all next week.
See you next week, Rudy.